I'm excited to talk to you about natural remedies for boundaries. I'm Lily with Brown Bear Herbs. First things first, let's talk about Gentle and Protective Herbal Smoking Blend. Many people smoke tobacco because they're very sensitive to other people's energies, not just terrestrial energies, but also energies that they get from other sources. There can be many causes of this, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to be sensitive, but when it gets to be overwhelming, then you start looking for ways to self-medicate. And tobacco is an effective herb for creating a better sense of boundaries. However, as we all know, or hopefully everybody knows, there's a lot of problems with tobacco. It's addictive. People are not educated to smoke tobacco in a way that's like minimal, ceremonial, and like just for the medicine. The cigarette industry promotes smoking excessively. There are chemicals added to the tobacco to make it more addictive, and that also adds to like the health burden. That can make quitting tobacco challenging for people in that position because they found something that's working, but it's so bad for them. And so that's why I made Gentle and Protective, which is a beautiful, simple herbal smoking blend that helps with creating boundaries in a way that's more harmonious for your lungs and not addictive. And my formula, which includes lavender and raspberry leaf and mullein, is going to be very supportive for you. I made it to make it easy for people to grab a cigarette, and when they're feeling really emotional or emotionally or energetically overwhelmed because maybe they're feeling stuff from outside themselves, or if they have a lot just building up, then they can grab a quick smoke that's not addictive, not restarting any addiction patterns or not starting them to begin with. The idea of, is it coming from outside? Is it coming from inside? I find meditation really helpful for that, because and I am speaking about silent meditation. So that's not an app, it's not reading something, it's not yoga, it's following your breath in and out using mantra and a number. So the way I was taught from my teacher, Sri Anandi Ma, part of Dhyan Yogi Centers in California. She doesn't always offer initiation, but if you have the opportunity to get initiation, I recommend it. I've worked with her for, since 1996. That technique is your eyes are closed, your focus here on the third eye, so in between your eyebrows. Breathe in, and as you're breathing in, you're silently, with your eyes closed, focusing on your third eye, you're repeating a simple mantra. The one I chose was Om. There are other simple mantras. That one's just very neutral. So you're not getting into like cultures or deities or anything like that. It's just a universal sound. And then when you get to the bottom, you exhale and count 1. And then you repeat Om 2. And you keep going like that with your eyes closed, focus on the third eye. If you lose your concentration and you're like, I don't even know what I was thinking about, I just lapsed into this whole thing about Taco Bell and the dog and the commercials. Instead of getting frustrated with yourself, you just like gently go back to either the last number you remember or 1. And there have been times in the last 29 years that the last number I went back to was frequently in the 200, 300 range. And then there have been other times when I had like head injury or something from a car accident, like just a concussion, but my memory and focus were poor. And I would be going, 1, 2, 1. So, and I will say that throughout all those phases where it was easier or challenging, or it felt like I wasn't even doing it, or I was having like amazing spiritual experiences or like no spiritual experiences, I noticed that there's been a steady increase in spiritual growth, and that has improved my health, my relationships, my mental capacity, my sense of connection with plants, animals, and minerals, people. who knows what else, it is expanded so much. And so meditation, silent meditation, is a great tool to incorporate into your daily routine. So maybe like you get up, you take a shower, you meditate for 10, 20, 30 minutes. A lot of people recommend that 20 is great every day, 20 minutes. And I like to do like some mantras and yoga in the morning, and then 10-minute meditation, and then another 20 or 30 minutes in the afternoon. That keeps me in a place where I'm like, okay, I like got like a really nice vibe going first thing in the morning, but I don't have time to just do everything I want to do. And it's really nice later in the day to like just like let go of everything for a little bit and find like peace again. So I recommend that, especially if you're somebody who's sensitive. You're probably like already on that frequency, but having meditation as a regular part of your life will give you a better understanding of what is you. And by doing that, when you're, take a new herb or meet a new person, and you start to have different thoughts or feelings coming into your body, your mind, then it's going to be easier for you to say, oh, this isn't mine. This is coming from this other person or plant. I like it or I don't like it. Or, I'm a little concerned about it. Is it good for me? Is it something I can work with? I recommend both finding tools that help you be feeling like you have good boundaries and having a better awareness of who you are. And so right before this video, I was feeling like my boundaries were not as clear as I wanted them to be. I was having trouble where I was feeling like I was getting interference, and it wasn't as respectful. Like I was saying, no, I don't want that. And the interfering energy was not being respectful. And so I was like, okay, not everybody's, has full awareness of the feedback I might be giving. Not everybody's respectful. Maybe, we've all had bad moods where we've been like, we have like an emotional blow up or an energetic blow up. And then we want to be able to have that happen sometimes and then be able to make up for it or apologize or become better over time. That's okay. But in terms of the person on the receiving end, you have to do your self-care. So I started thinking about my self-care stuff. And one of them is definitely gentle and protective. Smoked raspberry leaf and smoked mullein both have like giving you better sense of integrity, like energetic integrity. So that means just like knowing what's me and what's you. Like, so it's not so much about integrity in a sense of like, I know what's right, but in a way that is integrity, that those are overlap. It's like a Venn diagram of like science and energy body world and this world of like moral integrity. And that overlap is understanding what's right for you at your core. So I like that. I like that word. Might not be like too cool, but I think in our culture, being sensitive and receptive is not as appreciated necessarily as somebody who just knows who they are and they go off and they blaze their own trail. I think there's a place for both things in me and in everybody. Like, if you're just blazing your own trail, like, are you getting all the wisdom that you could get that could help you like refine that and make that go to the best place? Maybe not. And if you are just being receptive, are you asserting your own will into the world? Lavender's also in that blend. Like I said, smoking lavender is a great option. Lavender is also used as a sleep remedy. You can put lavender in a pillow, like a small, like eye size. I don't put it on my eyes. You could, and just have it near the head of your bed where you can smell it. And I also like to do that, put in rice too, so that, or something kind of like that, like bulgur, something that won't go bad and will, you don't have to use straight lavender because it's more expensive, and it also, the rice has a nice weight to it. It has a nice feel. So lavender used in that way is great for people who are having sleep disruptions because they are too sensitive to people's energy and emotions. So if you're in an environment or you know people have intense energy and emotions and you're sensitive to that and you feel like that might be disrupting your sleep, check out lavender. You could also, if you like smoking and you're trying to quit or you're trying to smoke better, you could smoke a Gentle and Protective before you go to bed, not in bed. And you could also use lavender essential oil as an option. So there's a few different ways to do it. So smoking lavender, essential oil, and the lavender pillow. I'm sure you could also do like a drink or something like that, but I enjoy those different options for lavender, and it's such an accessible herb. Some other things that I like to do energetic self-care include Devil's Club. I love Devil's Club. You could definitely use it if you're feeling like interference from somebody's energy. I tend to think of it as a good preemptive move if you're going into a situation where you think someone is going to be hard for you to deal with. So often it's not like, you could use it to just like block out everything, because when I do plant meditations with it, it is like a steel cone around you. But I find that if you use it excessively or keep using it over and over again, it can make you a little aggressive. So I use small doses, and I often use Devil's Club when I'm going to go deal with, like, let's say you have a neighbor who you need to discuss something with who gets like really angry about stuff. You could take it before dealing with that. Your family member that's challenging, you need to have a difficult conversation, or you just need to have a conversation. You could take a small dose of Devil's Club before that. What I'm saying when I say a small dose is typically, it depends on the preparation, but often I will just use like even as low as like 1 or 2 drops. Depending on the preparation, it might be that I want to use 5 drops or something like that. But it's a smaller amount, and it does depend on how big your body is. If you want to use it for your kid because your kid is going to be in a stressful situation or they're really sensitive, then you maybe do half the dose, or even put like, if they're under 10, you could put a glass of water, a cup of water, a couple drops, and then just give them like a half or a quarter and see if that does the job. So I love Devil's Club. I find it reliable. I think some people use it occupationally, like if you're in a room full of students, your teacher, or something like that, and you're just like, oh boy, I reached my max like 2 years ago. That could help. And then I like Yarrow. Yarrow is in Astral and Body Herbal Smokes that we sell. And then Yarrow Flower Essence. We have that in the shop, pink Yarrow. And that one is a great one to use on a regular basis if you are doing like energy work, or you're a healer, or again, like you're just having like, you're feeling permeable. You're got a lot of energies coming at you. That could be something that could be good to do on a regular basis. Like put 5 drops in your water bottle, drink it every day, and just do that for like 3 or 4 weeks and see where you're at with that sense of things. Because Yarrow is really helpful if you're healing holes in your energetic field. And I go into Yarrow more in my recent video on Yarrow for the Freedom Quilt. And so if you're curious about that one, check that video out. Another herb that's helpful for holes in your energetic field, especially think about this one if you have chronic pain, any type of chronic pain, is St. John's wort. And that one's in my back tincture, which that tincture works amazing, especially for lower back pain, because St. John's wort is specific for sciatica. St. John's wort is discussed a lot for depression treatment. In my herbal training with Matthew Wood, he talks about it as specifically being for depression related to chronic illness or chronic pain. So I said earlier chronic pain, but also chronic illness. I did find it super helpful. I was working in the hospital, probably interact with like 100 people a day. I was an IV nurse, and I did like small procedures and like really involved sterile procedures, but I was poking people. So I was poking into their field, their body. It's invasive. It's not as invasive as if I was a surgeon or something like that, but I didn't find there to be any coincidence that I was also having trouble with my sense of intactness when I was doing this with other people. And I got to the point where I was just like, I do not know if I can keep doing this job, because I would walk into a room and I'd be like, oh, this person's having stomach pain. Oh, this person's having a smile on their face, but they're like totally clamped down and tense inside. And, I could just feel so much. And I was like, maybe I should quit. And then I was also having like lots and lots of conditions because of inflammation in my lower trunk. So like my pelvis. And that included really severe intestinal pain. I took Kalia, which I sell in the shop. That's an herb that's onerogen, so it's active in dream time. And it is traditionally used to help people understand sources of illness and or treatment of illness. And it's also been used for locating lost loved ones. So if you have a serious situation that you're really trying to make some progress on, like, you're looking for something to help with cancer, or you're looking to have something that will help with your endometriosis, something that's like really problematic, that you've tried other things and you're not getting anywhere, Kalia can be a great option. And you just have to understand the messages coming through your dream time. And sometimes that's like really obvious, and sometimes it's can be obscure. I would suggest that you really carefully write down your intention before you go to sleep if you use it. And when I sell it, in the little kit, it gives you information how it was traditionally used. And then write down the dreams that you have for that night and the next night or two. And if you're not clear on them, I'm happy to do a consultation to help you with that. I did a lot of work with dreams and dream groups prior to getting more into herbalism, because I found that the work I was trying to do was shifting consciousness and shifting people's realities with big changes that they didn't think could necessarily happen, like basically lucid living, became easier to do with herbs than with dreams. So it allowed me, using an herb could make such a big difference in somebody's health really suddenly. And then it would cause the person to be like, oh, maybe these problems I have in other areas of my life or other areas of my health are not things that I'm going to have forever either. And I can be more flexible in how I think and stuff like that. And then I love the essences for that too, because it goes beyond the physical health into like, how do I want my emotional world to shift? How do I want my energetic world to shift? Like, what are things that in my life and community can shift? Super fun. So I took Kalia, back to the story, and I was like, I need some help with this. I think I was asking more about my intestinal distress, because I think there were a few times I should have gone to the emergency room, but I was not raised that way. So I didn't go ever. Anyway, it's just Kalia. I remember I took it when I was out camping, and I saw deer that night, and that makes me feel really good and makes me think that there's a gentle way forward. And then I dreamt of John Yarrow, and St. John's wort and Yarrow both are helpful for holes in your field, and they're both helpful for intestinal stuff. And I took those two herbs for a couple weeks, and I cleared the intestinal stuff, improved. I think it pretty much went away. The inflammatory related issues I was having with my menstrual cycle got massively better, and my lower back pain got better, and I became able to go to work because energetically I felt more normal. I wasn't picking up on people's stuff the way I had before. I still went in and I was still sensitive. I still had like all my experience behind me to help me understand people. And like, I would tune in enough to know like, oh, this person has, I'm going to ask about nausea because I have a sense that something's off here. But I wouldn't actually be feeling like I was going to throw up. So St. John's wort and Yarrow really helped, not to mention Kalia. And I also feel like if you use Kalia a few times and you really connect with the plant spirit, it just changes your reception in dream time so that information comes through just by setting your intention without by using the physical herb. So it creates a very gentle connection with greater dreamtime information. And often for me, that is about health matters for myself and sometimes for other people. And then, of course, as a healer, when I get sick, it's a blessing in some ways because when I work through it, I get the benefit of being able to like pass the herbal knowledge along to my clients. And that is the best. So I've, I guess, been lucky enough to have had many physical illnesses, including many chronic ones, probably over 20, that I've been able to get through with the help of dreams and other natural remedies for the most part. And that makes it easier to work with clients. So as I'm working through this energy field disruption that I was feeling, and those of you who are sensitive are still watching, it just reminded me of all the great tools that I have that make it easier to correct things. And I will say also, I do use some yogic techniques. I do use mantras from my teacher, again, Sri Anandima, that have been really helpful for me for protection. And they, I feel like it's easier to describe how they work in dream time, but they work just as well in waking time. They work very well. So like in dream time, I would get into like a scary situation and then I would start doing the mantras and then either the situation would totally change and often within seconds, and then sometimes I would just wake up and that was fine too. And then in waking time, like if I found somebody was like lurking nearby or like coming close to me in a way that I didn't like, then I would start using the mantra and then I would like look behind me and they'd be gone. And that happened, that could be a coincidence, the skeptics out there, but that happened so many times that I felt very like safe from having those mantras, and so I'm really grateful for my teachers for that. And they didn't just help with, scary people. My dog used to sit by me while I was doing the mantra, and one time he got stung by several bees. This was my former dog, and he was about 11 pounds, I think, same size. And he got into a nest of bees and he must have got like 7 stings and he started to swell up. But every day he listened while I did the mantras. He was always right next to me. Like I had like a baby gate that separated it so I could meditate in peace because otherwise he'd be like all over me. And he would be right there. So, and my teacher said that that's good enough. And I took him to the vet and they were just like, he is literally swollen everywhere except for his airway. He would be dead if he was just swollen like a normal reaction to a bee sting, but he was like saved by having his airway. And so I've heard so many stories. So if you are looking for a meditation teacher, I would recommend Sri Anandima. And it's a really good community, very diverse and welcoming. I have also heard like wild stories of one guy who was on his bike and he got run over by a police car, and he had done the mantras faithfully, but was definitely a skeptic. And he said that while the police car was like running over his legs, he just felt his legs like totally relax. And then when the police car like gotten over his legs and stopped, they got out, and he just like got up, and he was like, yeah, I'm fine. And like he's like, yeah, I might have a bruise or two. And the police were like, no, you're not gonna just like bike away. Like, this is not our operating procedure. So they took him to the emergency room, and he got x-rays and all this stuff, and he was totally fine and just had a little scrape bruise situation a little bit. But I've heard a lot of stories like that too from the mantras. So I feel like it doesn't seem to save me from everything, but it certainly is helpful. And then that meditation tradition is Kundalini Maha Yoga, and then Kundalini Yoga is with like a lot of teachings from Yogi Bhajan. I do find the teachings on that path really helpful, and there's some called like there's like a field charging set, and there's a few others that like really clean out your aura, which can be really helpful for many different reasons. It can help you have that sense of like strength, and like you're the master of your own domain. Like people are not like coming into you and like you're feeling like bowled over by life. It's like you're a strong presence. And it can also help like clearing out trauma, also the Kirtan Kriya, which I have a video about. That one is great for clearing out trauma from the field. There's just a bunch of them. So if you're yogically inclined, or you're like physically fit enough, and have like maybe a dancer or something like that, where you have like good body awareness for following instructions about your physical body position and placement, then I highly recommend Kundalini Yoga, the actual like yoga style. So like Kundalini Yoga is like physical body postures and breathing techniques. And then the Kundalini Maha Yoga, which is like my teacher, Sri Anandima, that one is more, that's really focused on silent meditation, although they do some teachings about like breath and some basic yoga. All I'm saying is that if you're energetically sensitive, then it can be really helpful to know that you have tools at your disposal, a variety of tools that can help you to get things back on track. As a footnote, I would say that it's important to observe the connections between like how you're feeling and any use of substances. So if you're using marijuana, alcohol, harder drugs that aren't hard, but there are like psychedelics, stuff like that, that is gonna like alter your perceptions, those all impact your field. When you use psychedelics, stuff like that, you're creating holes in your field. And perhaps if you do it in a traditional ceremonial container with really, advanced spiritual guides, they're gonna be like monitoring what influences you're going to be subjected to, like what are the quality of the entities that will be guiding you on your journey. Whereas if you do it by yourself, or you do it with a group of people who aren't very knowledgeable about that, it's creating holes in your fields, and negative things can come in too. Like all sorts of things can come in. It's leaving you vulnerable. And it's not just drugs that can cause holes in your field. Car accidents, different injuries and traumas can create imbalances in your field that make you more susceptible to outside influences. Or, like if you have a partner and they're really connected to you, your energy's really mixed up, and if things go sour or a boundary is broken, you might want more space, and you want to be able to get that space that you need, and herbs and practices can help. It can even be part of your routine to just work on that energetic field. A healthy aura like that, like field charging set from Yogi Bhajan, is going to give you like you're taking up your own space feeling, and other people will notice that and have more respect for that too. So that's a lot of stuff about natural remedies that can help with energy field feeling like strong, and so you're not getting overwhelmed, looking at some of the causes and spiritual practices that you can do to both know yourself better, but also to like clean and maintain and strengthen and charge up your field. I hope that was helpful and interesting. Let me know what you think. You can find more information about my work at brownbearherbs.com and find our products. I hope you have a great day.